I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Thou shalt rise again.
Power to make multitudes run squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger.
Do you believe in werewolves?
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Eternal Midnight. I'm Chad, and I'm here with Ken. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. So, Ken, what are we talking about tonight?
Talking about the other James Whale classic, The Invisible Man.
Great movie. Great movie. With just as good of a remake, in my personal opinion, from a couple years ago.
Yeah, I actually, you're talking about Lee Winnell's Invisible Man?
Yeah.
The last movie I saw in theaters before the pandemic hit.
Nice. I'm trying to remember if mine was that or Birds of Prey. It was one of those two, and then it was like, oh, because I wanted to go see Sonic, and it's like, oh, the theaters are closed. Guess I can't go see it.
It was funny because I remember, like, because I had no idea what was coming. I was walking out of the movie theater just like, boy, I sure do love going to the movies. And little did I know what was coming, but...
You're like, that's set for a year.
Yeah, exactly. But as much as I did really like that remake, it's not as good as the classic.
Absolutely. Especially after my most recent rewatch of it. I feel like this movie is just not talked about enough.
It's, I think, of all like the Universal monsters, he's sort of the red hair. What's the? I was about to say red herring. That's not the right word. No, I guess you could say the redheaded stepchild of the bunch because he's just not talked about as much.
I think it's because he was never really repeated. It was a different Invisible Man every time, so it was just more of an idea as opposed to the same character time and time again.
Also, I think there's something to the fact that he is a human, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, another one that actually doesn't get talked about as much is the Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it has something to do with the fact that, you know, they're humans. They're just human beings. Whereas, you know, the rest are vampires, monster created from stitched bodies, werewolf, all that. Yeah,
it's like pure science fiction all the way. Absolutely nothing else.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask you, do you know the one big piece of trivia that I'm sure you've probably heard before? Gloria Stewart, who plays the love interest Flora, you know what her other big role was?
What's that?
Old Rose in James Cameron's Titanic.
No way.
Yeah, same actress.
Oh, that is too cool.
Yeah, that's one big piece of trivia. And another actor that I just realized because I just watched this movie again today, and Henry Travers, who plays her dad, you know what his other big role was?
What's that?
He was Clarence the Guardian Angel in It's a Wonderful Life.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just two big pieces of trivia I wanted to put out.
That's cool. So... I think I've heard other people say this before, so I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon and say it. I think the biggest thing to me that sticks out about this movie would not have done as well, I don't think, if we had not had Claude Rains' voice. That is what sells this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you know who are some of the actors that were considered before him? Boris Karloff, who has a good voice, but I don't think would have done. And yeah, Boris Karloff, the Frankenstein monster, and Dr. Frankenstein, Colin Clive.
Huh.
And I think we're so much better off for having Claude Rains in the role.
It set it apart, and that's what I liked about it, is it's like he didn't... Because we'd heard... Well, no, we hadn't heard... No, yes, we had. We'd heard Karloff talk already as Ardith Bay. But there's just something about Claude Rains' voice that is just so... It's so powerful and commanding. Like, a voice like his is one of those things, like, you could hear, like, just like leading a battalion of men into war or something. You know what I mean? Or giving like a giant speech in a modern day movie, because he had some amazing speeches in this movie. Tons of them, actually. Big lines of dialogue where it's like, wow, his voice just radiates and made the scene what it was.
Yeah, well, like that one line he has, it's just like, the nation that wins my secret will sweep the world with invisible armies.
I think my favorite one, and as morbid as it is it's the one where he kills Kemp when he's describing how Kemp is going to die.
I knew you were going to go there. It's just like, first you'll do a somersault and probably break your arm.
He just like lists everything else. Well, goodbye, Kemp. I always knew you were a dirty little coward. You're a dirty, sneaking little rat as well. Goodbye.
Yep.
Just down
he puts down the parking brake.
I always love that scene.
This is definitely, I think, the funniest of all the Universal monsters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, couple of hilarious scenes. What's funny is I borderline say this movie is a comedy. Upon this latest rewatch, I borderline say it's a comedy before it's a monster movie.
It definitely feels like it. Like, it has its serious points, but it's almost, maybe it's because of the era we live in. I don't know. I just like laugh when, like, every time the housekeeper came into his house, which the best voice in the world from Una O'Connor.
Una O'Connor
Those screeches she does.
The screech. I was like, upon this recent rewatch just today, it is so obnoxious, but you can't help but laugh at it.
Exactly. It's almost like unironically funny. Like, it's almost like it wasn't meant to be as humorous as it was. Like, I think the scene that made me laugh multiple times was like when he first broke out and he like stole the bike and started riding off. He like tripped over and like everyone like ran to where the bike was, and he picks it up and he's like, "Here, take your old bike," and he just throws it at the crowd of people.
Yeah, another moment that always gets me is it's near the end when he like steals the one guy's pants, and he's wearing pants with suspenders, and the woman is running away, and he's like singing an old like an old lullaby song or something.
Here we go. Here, what is it?
It's like, here we go gathering nuts and berries.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Or when he like first strips down and he's just in his shirt waving his arms around and stuff. And speaking of that, I think the effects of this film for 1933, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because, you know, now we think about like either blue screen or green screen. Apparently back then the way they did it was like black tarps. And I'm not sure how it worked, but yeah, essentially he would like wear like black tights or something over his legs, and he would like be standing in front of a black tarp, and they would film him, and then they would like project that footage over like footage of the room. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but the effects are just amazing in this movie, and it's the same year as King Kong, so that was a great year for special effects.
You know what's funny? Taking it back, imagine being alive back then and seeing this. Just imagine how, I want to say probably the same as some people like when they saw the first the original Jurassic Park and seeing the T-Rex, just like, wow, it's not stop motion or it's not like a puppet, like it looks real. Imagine having seen like that King Kong. We should do that one when we're done with these. Imagine seeing King Kong and like the Invisible Man back then, just being like a pair of pants walking down the street with nobody in them. Just imagine having seen that in the movie theaters back then.
And also the really the scene that really the first scene where you get to see those effects is when Una O'Connor like brings his lunch into him, and he like has to like hold the tarp over his face real quick, and then as he lowers it, you see like his jaw is gone.
Yeah, that was done really well, I thought.
Yeah, really great. I wish I knew the name of the special effects people on this, but it's escaping me.
Well, whoever they were, gentlemen, thank you for pioneering this, because props and good job to all of you. Because while it doesn't Well, it doesn't hold up to the same as, we'll just compare it to the newer one. Elizabeth Moss being picked up and thrown around, or, like the paint being thrown. Well, it doesn't quote unquote hold up to that. For almost 100 years before that, no, it looked amazing, and it still looks good.
And honestly, that being the case, it might not, excuse me, it might not look as convincing, but it's more interesting, like it's more interesting to think how it could have been done.
I genuinely think anything without CGI is interesting how it's done. Anything. CGI is just simple. Person at a computer.
I also think you'd probably agree with me on this. In any movie, if you can do an effect without CGI, you should.
100%. Anytime I see CGI blood, I cringe.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, how hard was it to just do a quick, like, splatter pack or something?
Yeah, and I've heard it said like this, like, you being a huge kaiju fan, like the old Godzilla movies, it's like, as much as I do enjoy the new Godzilla movies, it's like when I see Godzilla's tail crash through a building and I see the glass and everything and the concrete all shatter, I know, okay, a computer programmed the building to crash in that way, Whereas when it's a guy in a suit, whether it's a guy in a suit or a puppet, when it crashes through a building, it's like it feels real, it feels tangible.
Yeah, it's a miniature being destroyed. It's actually something there, something real.
And it's something actually being destroyed.
Exactly. And like that, the Invisible Man remake, CGI. And the original, no, those pair of pants, those are actual pants and a shirt floating around, like you said, with the movie magic, but they're still there.
Yeah. So I want to ask something that I think is just so funny in this movie is the main police constable in this movie. When he first goes and they're like, what's the matter with him? He's like, he's invisible. That's what's the matter with him. I'm like, so have you seen invisible people before? You seem very not perplexed by this.
He sounds so bored.
Yeah, it's so he's a fun character.
Oh, absolutely. So now I want to see if you agree with me on this one or if you feel differently. I want to say up to the first half, until Griffin goes to Kemp's house for the first time. Did you pity him?
Good question.
Because on my most recent rewatch, that's what I thought. I'm like, I feel bad for him because it's like getting kicked when they tried to kick him out of the room at the hotel.
Yeah,
you could see like he wasn't a villain yet, but he was just like, it's like mentally, you don't understand what I'm going through. I'm trying my hardest not to be a dick,
not to lash out.
Right, and it's like I'm trying.
But the way he says one of these lines, he's just like, I implore you to let me stay.
Yeah, he was just, you could like hear the emotion of, please, I'm sorry, this is just the way I am. Just please don't do this to me. You don't understand what I'm going through. And then from there, it was just, he snapped basically.
Yeah, and what's really impressive about that is his acting. It's all in his voice and in like his body movement, because we have no facial expression to go off of, and it's what a voice he had, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes this movie it makes it so work. It's the voice, it's the comedy, because even the story, like his plan, to take over the world. It's like, okay, good luck taking over we saw it at the end, how he was defeated. Good luck going anywhere in the rain or snow. You're finished.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think it's just so weird when he was like explaining to Kemp all the different ways he can be detected, like dirt within my fingernails, food is visible inside me until it's digested. And that's
like something you almost would have, like, in retrospect, I was thinking, like, I remember him saying all that. I was thinking, I'm like, that's almost something you would have heard like a 70s or 80s remake say, because they would have been like, the movie didn't go deep enough with it. But no, they went deep enough with it in the original one this time.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting, and I had never thought about this, until I had seen the movie, and I know you're a fan of this, Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon.
I love that movie.
He
so
says
many people don't like it, but I love it.
He has a line in that where he says that he can never close his eyes because even when he closes his eyes, he sees through his eyelids.
Oof.
And I'm like, holy shit, that's not something anyone would ever think about. But yeah, that's like something that's going to happen.
Wow. I don't even, it's been a while since I watched it, but I need to rewatch that. I always love a good Paul Verhoeven movie.
Yeah. But also, so with the original, I think another really interesting thing to take note of is the I lost it, but I'm sorry. Is there anything you want to go on for the original?
Oh, I think okay. No, I forget. I got to go back and correct myself. I still kind of felt pity for him up until the scene where it said he derailed the train.
Yeah. Now
that's when I was like, okay, now he's just a violent murderer.
That's it. That's something I want. That's exactly what I want to bring up, and I totally lost it. But now, so I just think it's so weird. You mentioned him just going on this huge power trip, and one thing that was just so weird to me was when he's sitting down with Kemp, and he's just saying, he says, "We'll start off with a little reign of chaos, a few murders here and there, murders of big men, murders of little men." I'm just like, what? Like, I would understand if like your goals were like to steal money or do this or that, but it's just straight up murder for the sake of murder.
He snapped.
Exactly, and they do have a passing mention that like this drug or this flower that he took enzymes from to create this drug, it like twists your mind. So it does get a passing mention.
Yeah, it's just, and then just the way he died, just wow, boom, one shot, no blood. He got shot and didn't bleed.
Yeah, well, invisible blood, I guess.
Right? Yeah, true. And then it's like as bad, and the movie was able to do it. It took me from feeling bad for him to being like, this guy's an asshole. I can't wait till he dies, to actually feeling bad for him as he's dying and he's asking for Flora. And he dies and he becomes, and I just thought that was a great way for it to end. Spoilers. I just thought that was a great way for it to end. As he dies, he becomes visible again. And that's just how it finished. I'm like, that you could not have ended this on a better note.
Yeah. So, here's a question. Do you get a good sense of James Whale's style in this movie?
In what way?
So I think you definitely get, because James Whale, I think, definitely had a dark sense of humor, and he liked mixing like dark subject matters with comedy. Because I think especially in that time, having your main character talk about committing murders and derailing a train and doing all this twisted stuff, and then going and having him like take out a bank till and like tossing the money, be like money for everyone, just like your mind like goes in so many directions, just like, oh my god, to haha.
He was like the Spielberg of his day, it feels like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He knew how to push the boundaries, but he knew how to push boundaries and make absolute quality, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. He I mean, of all like the classic Universal directors, I think he is the one that like whose name stands above the rest.
Absolutely.
Because I know he directed this. He directed the first two Frankensteins. He did The Old Dark House. The only other one whose name I can really remember is Todd Browning. I know Creature from the Black Lagoon was Jack Arnold, but that's basically a whole different era of movie making.
Yeah, that's literally the tail end, where that was like the last grasp at getting one more thing out of this finished monster series, basically.
Yeah.
Even though that is an amazing film.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
We got a long ways to go before we get to that one.
Before we get to that one, we're still in the baby stages.
Still back at the beginning.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, I think this is a great film all around. It's just like you said, I agree. It's not talked about enough because he's not a monster. He's just a man who's invisible.
Yeah. Couple of jokes that I also want to call out. So when he's like talking to Kemp and as Kemp is like leaving the room, he tells Kemp to like get the car warmed up because it's cold out there, walking around naked.
Think about it. He was naked so much of this movie.
It's so funny. I've thought about this so many times. I just like, I don't want to like get too vulgar on your show here, but like when that scene where it's just the shirt floating around and the police are chasing around, I'm just like, man, like as I'm watching it, I'm just like, man, he's just running around with his genitals hanging out and these guys are trying to grab at him.
Right. Like, are you guys fully prepared to grab him? Because you're probably going to grab something you don't want to.
But I think that just I think that's always been sort of an appeal of invisibility stories when you think about it, is nudity. And I think that plays into James Whale's like love of just sick, dark humor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It would have been amazing to have he's a director, like, you ever heard those, like, if you could meet someone like dead, famous, alive or something, he would be an amazing person to meet, James Whale.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very storied person.
I would love to just like sit down and just be like, all right, tell me what it was like tell me what it was like being on the set of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say, for you, how long would you be talking to him for? A couple hours?
Couple hours. We'd drink whiskey and chat.
Nice. So I think that's it. You got anything else big for this film? Any closing thoughts?
I mean, we're just gushing over all of these movies, and it's a great one. It's probably the funniest of the Universal monsters, and it's just a great example of James Whale's mix of shocks and laughs.
Absolutely. So, yeah, great movie. Ooh, wow, that was a voice crack. Great movie. So, yeah, great movie overall. Underrated. Give it a rewatch if it's been a while, because, I mean, everybody remembers how Frankenstein goes. Everybody remembers the Wolfman. But it's like, it's always good. This is one of those ones I feel like, unless you're like an Uber fan and watch it quite often, I feel like this is just one people don't watch that often. So give it a rewatch, because I think it'll go up a little bit in your rankings.
Absolutely.
So that wraps up The Invisible Man. So I am Chad. Thanks for listening in.
I'm Ken. Take it easy, everyone.